Right now, is there something that you have gone through or something that you're going through or some answer from somebody else that you just can't seem to wrap your head around? That's understanding their why. Why did this happen to you? Why did somebody lie to you? Why did somebody ghost out on you? Why? So I wanted to share my personal journey to accepting not needing the why. So welcome to episode 56 of the Positivity Experience. Let go of the need to know why. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome back to episode 56 of the Positivity Experience. I am your girl, Lori. I have to tell you guys something. It was so funny. Not funny. It's funny now, but not funny. So a couple of days ago, and I had noticed this after I got my cleaning in December, I have 3 of my wisdom teeth left, right? So only 1 of my wisdom teeth have been removed. So I have 3. And there's a little pocket that's kind of like a little space between my upper left wisdom tooth and the tooth beside it. And sometimes food's gotten trapped in there, got stuck in there. But of course, I floss my teeth and all of that. Well, I'm going to tell you, a couple days ago, my toothache, I was pretty sure they were going to have to remove my tooth or do a root canal. They had to do something. I was in so much pain, but I know not to run from the pain and not to complain about it, to just kind of sit with it and kind of process it. So when I went to the dentist yesterday, I was like, okay, it's going to be probably expensive. I figured out what credit card to put it on. And I wasn't angry. I was like, I didn't even care. I was like, they just need to give me some Novocaine and be done with this. So I go in there and he does this stuff and he goes, oh yeah, you got some food trap back there. I was like, what do you mean I got food trap? I've flossed my teeth a million times thinking I had food back there. He goes, no. And so he was able to get it out. So luckily today is much better, but just so you know, tooth pain is zero joke. So, but yeah, fortunately feeling a lot better. So, and we're going to get some snow this weekend. So your girl is very happy. So I wanted to, and I know that we've talked about not needing the why before on this podcast and other places, but I wanted to give you my process. And I'm not just talking about my process for my clients and things like that. I'm talking about the process that I used and then where my aha moment was, because I feel like we all have this aha moment that comes after you know everything. Not everything, but like, let's say you know how to drive. You're like, hey, I know how to drive. And you're a little uncomfortable. And then you're like, hey, you know what? This isn't all half bad. There's something that happens that just kind of goes, okay, I got this. So I wanted to kind of just go into my story. And the reason this is fresh in my head is because I'm still writing my second book. And this is a huge part of what I was writing about earlier this week. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that keeps you stuck in your trauma. Like I can speak for myself, right? I know for a fact that the why me and why did this happen are 2 things that kept me in that trauma loop. All right. So, I mean, I know you guys have like been here, done that, rode the rides, bought the shirt, but you guys know about my abuse. If you don't, there's tons of episodes on the podcast about it. And it wasn't just the abuse though, right? It was everything that went with the abuse. In some ways, the abuse part was the easier part to get over or get through. And I'll tell you why. Because I was young, right? I was a little girl. And I've said this to you before, but this was definitely an aha moment for me on when I absolutely did not need to know a why and how I implemented that into my daily life, in my daily practice of life as we speak right now, today. And this will really help you because I see it all the time. Like, why isn't this person vaccinated? Why did they get vaccinated? Oh my God, that's way too much energy. Just don't worry about somebody else's why. You can do you set your boundaries, you protect your peace, let people do whatever it is that they're going to do. And if you don't want them around, they're not coming around. I told you that. Like, we're a vaccinated house. If you're not vaccinated, you're not coming inside the house. And if you do, for whatever reason, you will be masked or you're not coming in. It's not me telling you have to go get vaccinated. It's me saying these are my boundaries for me. And I don't need to know your whys of why you're not. I don't care. Right. And so that's going to help you find your inner peace by letting go of other people's actions and why they do those actions. All right. So I'm going to tell you when I was in some of the darker times for me. So when my mom passed, now we knew she was going to die. She had been sick from the time I was 6 till right before 9 days before my 14th birthday. March 25th actually is her death anniversary, 85. 1985. So it'll be, several years. And 36, I think, 37, 36. It's been a lot. That's all I know. And, I remember, even though the doctor told us that she would have 3 days left to live, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was sleeping on the recliner in the living room. Safe space for me because nobody could sit on the recliner with me. So I stopped sleeping in my bed after a while and just slept on the recliner where only one person can fit. And that really served my best and highest good, which is probably why I really like being in my robe and under things right now. It's just really my jam. But I remember when they had called to tell my dad that mom had passed, I heard the phone ring. He woke me up. He said, your mom has passed. And, I was like, no, did she? Like what? And I just kind of was going through my own sort of process, driving up to the hospital. So the same hospital I was born in is the same hospital she died in. And so we go up there. It's like she died at 4:03 in the morning. And we get there around 4:45 and the nurse is there. And so she was still in her room. She was still laying in the room. They had all of the machines off that was on her. They kept her in the room for us because we wanted her to be in the room. And my dad went in first. I did not want to go in with him. And I said, I do not want you to go in with me. I'm 13, almost 14. Leave me alone. I just want to be with my mom. And so I had they had packaged her belongings in like a brown paper bag. It was sitting up on the ledge. So I went over to mom, who, by the way, looked so peaceful, which was so good to see because mom didn't really look peaceful for many years because she suffered so much. But she looked peaceful. She looked like she was sleeping, but she seemed just better, right? You know what I mean? Like she just did. And I remember because she was kind of on an incline in the bed, I sat on the side of the bed. I sat on the bed with her and I just talked to her. I said, Mom, listen, I know that you're in a better place. And I was a little crying, but I wasn't like hysterical. Again, we kind of knew it was coming. It doesn't make it any easier, but and so I not picked her up, but like I gave her a hug and like picked her up off the back of it. And just, obviously she did not hug me back, but like, I hugged her and, I knew by her passing, oh boy, my life was going to be flipped upside down just because I knew it. And I think she knew it. And I just knew it. So but it kind of registered, it kind of didn't. And so then when when my dad and the nurse and everybody came in, they're like, okay. Oh, she walked me down, got me some hot chocolate, and we came back and I was going to pick up my mom's bag. Well, I'd like lost all control of my arms. I think I was still kind of like in a shock kind of thing. So I dropped it on the floor. They picked it up. They said, oh, it's no big deal. So go home. And then I remember that morning I called Kim, my best friend Kim, and she was really upset. So she was a little late getting to school because she knew my mom really well. That's actually, my mom is part of the reason she became a nurse because she would come over and help take care of her. And then I sat on the couch for about 2 hours and yelled at God. That's literally what I did. Like screamed. I don't mean a little bit because dad went off to work or whatever it was he was doing. I don't even know. Don't care. But I was angry. But anger isn't a true emotion. It's fear, frustration, and hurt. And I was frustrated. I was in fear and I was hurt. I was all of the above. And I was just angry. You know what I mean? And then from there, that got me down a horrible, horrible years, not a year, not 5 years, years of a spiral of why did my mom have to die? Why did my mom have to be sick? Why couldn't my mom be healthy? Why don't I have a mommy? You know what I mean? Why did she have to go? Why did this have to happen with my dad? Why am I so like unstable here? Like, I don't know up from down. Why do we have 500 mice in the wall? Plus, why at some point later on did I have to go out to Arizona to live with my sister who I had met one time? Why did the whys never stopped coming. Why this? Why that? I needed to know the why. I needed to have control. I needed everyone to make me feel better. And I was just in a hole. I mean, a hole of just misery. So again, I was going to say, and in the book, thinking that you've read the book, you haven't read the book yet because you don't have it out yet. But in there, it talks about how, there's a few things that I did, and I definitely want to go into it more on a different podcast. But when I moved to New York City, I moved to New York City with no destination in mind. And I had $200 at one point. By the time a girlfriend drove me up there, I had $80 to my name and stayed in New York for years. And so I'll go into that because my survival skills are kind of top notch. And I know that because you could plunk me in the middle of the biggest city or the biggest place, and I'm going to be fine. Now, that's the positive part. And I'm going to say why that's important to you later on in a minute. But later on in a minute, I think that's wrong, bad grammar, but it is what it is. So here's the thing. As I was so miserable, the needing to know the why me's and why did dad do this and why was that this and why couldn't I get this job and why couldn't I have these friends and why couldn't I have more money and why couldn't I why blah, blah, blah. And so some of you who are listening to this may be in that pity party as well. And that's exactly what it is. Listen, it's not taking away and it's not invalidating your trauma. Been there, done that, bought the shirt. But you can't let that become an excuse, which is exactly what it did for me for many years. Okay? It was an excuse. It was an excuse as to, well, this is just how I am. Not, I'm going to work to change it. It was, this is just how I am. All right. I was always ready to go fisticuffs. I was always ready. I woke up every day, ready to take on the world, ready to be angry with everyone, and ready to, and everybody needed to make me feel better because I had a shitty childhood. Okay. So when I started, and I talk about this in the book, of when I kind of hit that rock bottom. And it was shortly after I gave birth to Jasmine. She's my first daughter who I gave up with severe postpartum depression. And actually, she'll be 28, like by the time you hear this. And so I gave her up early on. And I just was lonely and nobody could explain to me about this postpartum depression. I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I did not feel like a human. I didn't have any attachment to anybody or her or anybody else. It was just bad. And everybody around me was just criticizing me and you're a mother. How could you not love your child? And oh my God, you don't want to talk about being berated and something was wrong with me. And then that led me into more drinking. And oh my God, it was just a total clusterfuck. Seriously. And at some point, that's when I was like, okay, I need therapy. I think it was right after I had Bugsy, right after I had my son. I was like, okay, I seriously need therapy. Like somebody, I didn't know what it was I needed, but I needed someone that could fix me, right? Later on, I realized I'm not broken, but I needed someone who could fix me in that moment. So I remember I went to, and I cannot remember his name, but he was from India. And he came in and we started talking. Oh yeah, well, he's kind of also the one who was like, you should do this as a profession. And I thought, you're crazy, right? Like, do you not realize, like, I don't even know how to function. I don't even know how to love myself. Because I definitely did not love myself, not even a little bit. So, we started doing work together and he said, wow, you're very angry. And I said, I am very angry. I said, I'm angry. I said, I wish I was adopted. I don't know why I ended up with these people. I don't know. I mean, the list was endless. If you think about the worst complainer, of course I was in therapy. I wasn't complaining out to the world. But if you think about the worst complainer, yeah, I was right there. Okay. Because I was just so overwhelmed and confused and stressed and angry, just so much. And of course, I was thinking, oh, I just need somebody to fill my void. I just need to marry somebody or I just need to date somebody or that's going to create. Oh God, no. Thank God. I learned so much more about relationships as time went on. Even in the beginning of the relationship with Paul and I 17 years ago, I wasn't awful, but it was still a little codependent. Definitely not now, but it went over a period of time. So at that point, I remember him saying something to me and he said to me, why do you think everybody needs to walk on eggshells around you? And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't. He's like, you kind of do, because you're saying that they can't be themselves. And I was like, well, what do you mean? They can be themselves as long as they're not stupid. I mean, because that's just how I was thinking. And, he said, well, but who are you? And you want to talk about defensive. I was like, what do you mean? Who am I? I'm a survivor and I am this and blah, 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 blah. Oh, trust me. You couldn't even say the wind is blowing south without me kirking out on you. And so I think I know why. People who get defensive, it's because something strikes a chord. That's just the facts. People don't like to be told about themselves. So when it hits a chord, they start to get all defensive. So that was the start of my many, 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 many years of therapies, life coaches, shamans or practitioners over a period of time. Well, over that period of time, this is when my aha moment set in. I came back. It was right after I got a divorce, or I wasn't divorced. I moved back I moved out of the state after my first husband. We just kind of separated. Well, I was going to move. We were going to see how, anyway, we separated. And we weren't quite divorced yet. And I went and I visited is that my second cousin? I think it's my first cousin. Yeah, it'd be my first cousin. And again, remember, I was born to older parents. So my first cousin is like, I'm 51. I think if she's alive, she's probably like in her 80s. So she's much older than I. But I remember going into Virginia because I was like, okay, I had done a lot of work. I was still doing work. And I thought, okay, let me kind of reach out to some family members. Like, after mom died, I was definitely isolated from family because nobody liked my dad. And so I was sort of the shunned person, right? Because of my dad, right? Guilty by association, I guess. And her name's Shirley. And I went to Shirley and I was talking to her and, it's nice because, she's the connection to my mom. It's my mom's sister's daughter. And, we were talking a little bit and I said to her, because I felt like this why was really important to me. And I said to her, I said, hey, so when we were coming down here, when me and dad would come down here, I was like 10, 11, did y'all know something was going on with me and my dad? And she sure as shit looked at me. She said, yes. Yep, we did. We knew when he was dressing you in like dresses and, short dresses and heels. And we knew that something was not right. So I said, calmly, okay, so I'm just curious. Why did you guys not because I needed the why, right? In my brain. And this is my aha moment. And I was working on not needing it, but I felt like I needed to know why did nobody, quote unquote, save me. Nobody has to save me. I realize this now. But she goes, well, you know how your dad is. Your dad kept you away from everybody. Anytime somebody started to get suspicious, he would make sure that you were isolated. And I'm thinking, in that moment, I was thinking, honestly, anything she says to me is not going to be a good enough reason. I don't care if she was like, well, we tried and we couldn't because the president of the United States said that we couldn't. It didn't matter to me. In that moment, I realized when she said that to me, which sounded like a complete cop-out to me anyway, I realized, wait a minute. Even if she gave me, and she did give me her why, even if she gave me that and everybody else along the planet gave me that, it's still not going to repair me based on what their why is. It's the same as my dad. And I've said this before. My dad never owed me an apology. People have a hard time with this, but he does not owe me an apology. His actions are his actions. Even if he would have said, and I gave him the opportunity right before he died, and he still, like I said, he was like, no, I didn't fuck with you. Okay, cool. So, and again, I wasn't angry, and I'm still not angry, and I'm not hurt, and I'm not triggered. Because he's the one that was having to deal with everything that was going on. I will always have leftover stresses and anxieties for the rest of my natural life based on all of my traumas, which that honestly, in many ways, what I went through with my dad was minor. Seriously, just in many other ways, because there's just so much that leads up to it in different parts of my life and things that you're struggling with, right? There's always going to be something different that kind of leads into that. And I literally was sitting in her house and I thought, I don't really care what the why is. It doesn't change the fact. It's not going to unmake that happen. Right. And I thought, this kind of feels good. Like I wasn't angry. At first I was like, that's kind of a fucking cop out. And then I was like, actually, it doesn't really matter. And it's like all of the work that I had been doing clicked at that moment. It just clicked at that moment. And from there on out, literally, people would try to explain to me a why about something. I'd be like, oh, I'm good. I don't need the why. That's why I'm always like, you do not need to give an explanation after no. People are like, it's rude. It's not. That's how you perceive it. I don't need to know that you're not going to come over to have wine with me, because whether you tell me you're going to go, you can't have wine because you were busy and you got to get up early in the morning. It doesn't matter. No is still no. You're still not coming over. I don't need to know your why. And when I tell you this kickstarted my trauma healing like it was on steroids, I am not lying to you. So it's not this magic button and this magic pill, but I worked with like an ego expert, which is why I'm really good on like talks about ego and stuff. It was just one of the woo-woo people that I worked with, and a psychologist and a scientist when we were all like doing some stuff together. And that was all my ego. My ego was saying, I need to know the why. You owe me the reason why. Why didn't you step up for me? Why didn't you come save me? I was 31 years old when I was talking to my cousin Shirley. I was 31. It doesn't matter what did or did not happen when I was 11 years old. It's not going to change it. And when I grasped that, that's also when I was able to release everything. My mom's passing. Literally, it was almost like it all flooded in. When I left her house, because I didn't stay much longer. When I left her house, I had like a 2.5 hour ride back home in my car. I was crying tears of joy. It wasn't crying like I was sad. I felt powerful. I felt like, you know what? I don't give a shit about anybody's why about something. Oh, I don't care. If you were to ghost out on me, okay. I'm not going to sit here and analyze it because I don't need to care why you leave ghost out. If Paul today, we've been together 17 years, came home and was like, I am not in love with you anymore. I mean, I'm going to be hurt, right? I'm allowed to process my hurt. I'm not going to go through, well, what can we do to save this? I don't know. Is there something I can do? Something, because we communicate now. See, the difference is if we didn't communicate, it would probably catch me off guard a little bit, but we communicate pretty good about how we feel and where we feel somebody's dropping the ball or where somebody needs to work. Like, I'll take ownership of my stuff. He takes ownership of his stuff, but it also helps that I have all this like background in the work that I do and all of the healing. So I don't ever want to hold on to somebody who doesn't want to be with me for whatever reason. I don't give a shit what the reason is. If literally, if he walked in the house and was like, I'm not in love with you anymore, while it would hurt, I'm not going to hold on to you. I'm not going to be like, but why? Is there something I can do to change your mind? Because I love myself way too much for that. I don't need to know why he's fallen out of love with me, because if you didn't have the balls to talk to me and tell me about some things that you were going through or struggles that you were feeling, I am not going to try to all of a sudden come to you now and be like, oh my God, let's be super open with each other, because I can't unhear what I heard. So it's not that I wouldn't care. I would be hurt. It'd probably take the wind out of my sails for a short period of time, but I wouldn't try to save a marriage if someone tells me that they're out of love with me. I would never force another human being to be with me. It's the same thing with my kids. I'm not going to force my kids to come home to visit me just to guilt trip them because I'm their mother. I'm not doing that. If you don't want to come home, don't come home. We're good. No one's angry. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is what's made my marriage work. That is what's made the relationship with my kids even better. Okay. And that is a fact. And my son even said it. If you go back to episode 3 in the podcast, is the episode he was on. He'll say that. He'll be like, man, the fact that you're not down my neck and expecting all of these things from me is why I'm open with you and is why I have a good relationship with you. He said, if you were expecting me to do something, I would not show up. I was like, I would expect you not. You know what I mean? And so how that has made my healing journey so much better is I let go of the need to know, why did my mom have to die? Why did this have to happen with my dad? Why did I not have affection for my first daughter or any of my kids when I first had them, to be honest with you? Why did I not fill in the blank? Why did I not have all this money? Why didn't I not? Oh my God, the list was endless. The moment I took that piece out of why I needed to know why I was dealt a bad hand and blah, 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 that is when things shifted. So think about 31 is when things 31 is seriously when I took off like a bat out of hell. Like I just, my growth happened better. I got way more connected to my higher power and my higher spirit. I got way more energetically grounded. And I literally felt like I took off the wettest blanket. I felt like anything that I was angry about and held on to, I was able to release it. And you guys always ask like, well, how do you release it? You accept it. You accept that you don't need that why. Go ahead. Even if somebody who ghosted out on you came to you and said, this is the reason why I ghosted out on you, you're good chance it's not going to change it. It's not going to change how you feel. It's the same thing with getting revenge on somebody. When you want to smear their name, when you want to do this, when you want to do that, and I want to bring them down, and okay, cool. You're still hurt though. So what? So now you've hurt the person, at least in your mind, you've hurt the person. Then what? You're still screwed up. It doesn't fix it like you think it does. It might give you that instant dopamine hit of like, yeah, that's right, bitches. Yeah. And then that changes because then you're still angry. And then there's that part of you that at some point starts to feel guilty because you did it. It just becomes a nightmare. So when you stop with the, I need to know why, I'm telling you, not only what does your past get better, but your present and your future gets better. I am not lying to you. I mean, to the point to where it is one of those things that how this helps you in your day-to-day life, not just in your trauma, is just like I said earlier at the top of the podcast. Like, I'm good. Vaccinations work for me. If it doesn't for you, I don't care why it doesn't work for you. It works for me. Your vision of what you like or don't like about the vaccine is not my problem. Again, where it does like affect me is obviously if I'm going to have people over at the house, yeah, I got to be selective. And that's fine. It's not an ultimatum. You just can't come over in the house. We can sit outside. I can air you out there, but that's just a minor thing. This is anything. Why did somebody do this? Why did somebody make that statement? Why did somebody take this action? Why did somebody I don't care. Okay. If it affects me directly, and I mean like, I don't know, somebody says or does something and talks mad shit about me or something. I don't give a shit why they're talking shit about me because it doesn't bother me. If I know it's not true, if I know, not you or anybody else, if I know that it's not true, that's all that matters to me. If you believe somebody else's storyline of me or anybody else that you're hearing somebody talk mad shit about, then that's a you issue. You need to decide, are you going to take your own, make your own initiative to know the other person or know the other side of the story or not? Because that's a you thing. That's not a me thing. That does come with self-love. That I promise you it does. When you get to the art and the space of self-love and confidence, all of that, the whys of others will not bother you. The whys of other will not bother you. This means, well, why do they not want to come over here? Well, why did they not return my call right away? Well, why did they not do this? Well, okay. Oh my God, let that go. The amount of energy and years that I wasted because I didn't have the tools. And I quite honestly, I think there's that part of me that wanted to feel better, but wanted to feel better within a controlled atmosphere of me controlling it. And then it's like I said, it was a perfect storm. When Shirley told me, again, it sounded like a cop-out to me when she's like, well, your father kept you away from us and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but it didn't matter really what she said because it was done and over. Now later on, I found out when Child Protective Services were called that it was my brother. My sister G told me that, and him and I weren't even close like that. But then I had that stupid trauma bond where I was like, no, I'm fine. No need to remove me from this chaotic situation. But my point to that is I didn't even need to know my own why. Because you think that it's just the whys of others, but it's also your own why. Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I say this? Why? Okay, the reality is this, and this is your ego. If you cannot accept that yesterday is dead and gone, that time is never coming back. I don't care if you stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning trying to undo it, trying to change it, trying to replay it. It's not changing. Accept that. So what you do is you take something that you've learned and you implement that into your current life. Not out of paranoia, not like, oh God, I don't want to screw that up again. Oh my God, I don't want to make that mistake again. That's out of paranoia. You have different tools these days. But in your life today, it's not just about the trauma, but in your life today, right now, really be honest with yourself. In this second, is there anything in your brain, whether it be globally or individually, that you're like, well, why? Why did this? Or why do these people? Or why are this? And why? If you're saying why, you got to release that, man. No one owes you the why. And you don't know anybody else your why. This does not mean communication does not happen. I just told you, Paul and I have really good communication. And we have good communication because I can hear him basically say, oh my gosh, you're being a bitch today. And I can be like, oh my God, you're so right. If he's like, you're being a bitch today, I'm not going to lose my mind and be like, what do you mean I'm being a bitch? And no, I'm probably being a bitch. That's maybe I am. And I can be like, dude, you are so slow today. Your procrastination is killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Okay. And so the communication is good. So I don't need your why. I just need to be able to have communication with you. And whatever your viewpoint is, I can honestly look at it and be like, okay, well, I'm glad that that works for you. So understanding, yes, there's compromise. It's not all about you when it comes to a relationship, but it's also allowing the other person to have their own space. So if you've ever asked yourself, well, why do they like to go out with their friends and not spend time with me? That's a you problem. That's a you issue because you are feeling insecure because your person isn't there with you and you think that they want to spend time with other people when they don't want to spend time with you. That is your perception. That does not mean it's the truth. And remember, people are allowed and absolutely should have lives outside of relationships. Absolutely. You cannot be up under somebody 24/7. You don't need 4 text messages throughout the day talking about, I love you, I miss you. You don't need that. You don't need that. It was so funny. Paul called me earlier about something. Literally, he called me and I thought, oh my God, I hope he's okay. Like, we just don't do that. We just don't text each other throughout the day. It's just weird to us. Because, I mean, hell, I live with you. You're good. Unless I've asked you to stop by Michael's to pick up yarn or bring food, I don't need any extra communications with you. Doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means I got other shit to do. So in closing of this week, I just want you guys to know, when you guys say you're angry and you feel lost and you feel trapped, I hear you. I validate you, and I have been there. No amount of education that I've ever had has ever helped me more than that acceptance. Now that comes from, a lot of other things, but that acceptance. So right now, if you are telling yourself you need to know somebody's why or you don't understand somebody's actions, you don't need to. The moment you let go of that and focus all that energy on healing yourself, growing yourself, and listen, book a session with me. All of my contacts are in the show notes. Like anywhere you're listening to this podcast right now, it's in the description. It's right on the website. You can go, you can book a session with me. You can book a session with somebody. I don't care, but you got to get it under control and you got to understand that it doesn't matter if you choose to accept it or not. It doesn't change the outcome. So remember this. I know you've heard people say it. Why ask why, right? Why ask why? Because their why is never going to be good enough for you anyway, or you're going to try to negotiate the why, or you're going to try to plead your case. Your case doesn't have to be pleaded to their why. So in closing of this week, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. I want you to ask yourself this question. Why am I not okay with knowing? Why? Why do I need that? And then when you get to the why, you also have to remind yourself this. It doesn't matter, and no one owes me their why. Check it out.